Alright, and we're back. So it's a good lesson on trying not to ramble too long because your battery will run out. But now I'm backing up. So kind of recapping a little bit. I went from Note 7 to S7 and then back to the Note 7S, which supposedly had the improved battery, but with all the doom and gloom surrounding the Note 7, ultimately this phone is no more in terms of support. So I can't keep it as my main driver, daily driver, and it's gonna go back to Verizon. So I wish I could just keep it as, you know, just a separate phone to write notes and stuff on, but you know, I can't afford to pay the already ridiculous price of $860 for the full price of the phone. And I did actually look it up on eBay, look up the Note 7 to buy maybe on at a discount on eBay, but that's like that was like the day after eBay started banning the sale of the Note 7s on their site. So I heard I could have gotten it for maybe around $450. That's still a little pricey for me. If it was like maybe $200, I mean anybody would probably snatch that up. But yeah, so no more Note 7. And now that I have my Pixel XL, which is smudged to hell, let me wipe it a little bit. Pixel XL, 128 gigabytes since there's no expandable storage. I decided to go with Pixel XL over the LG V20 just because the V20, while it has all the things, all the features, replaceable battery, SD card, the interesting camera, all of it felt, ironically, it felt like I was going backwards. Whereas the Pixel XL, despite the not really exciting form factor and plain looks of it, and really even the plain Android version on here, the Nougat, but it's like the reference, the very base pure version of Android. It still felt as a step forward, especially with Google Assistant, which I have very mixed feelings about in terms of that being a selling point for the Google Pixel. So right off the bat, I would say the Google Pixel is a fairly overpriced phone for what it is. If you really if you do your best to set aside the issues with the Note 7, the Note 7 has so many features packed into it that it's easy to understand, especially comparing with the iPhone 7. It's easy to understand, maybe not quite 100% justifiable, but it's easy to understand why this phone costs so much as it does, because it really offers features you can't find on other phones. Like literally, there's no other phone that has the S Pen, and S Pen is a somewhat archaic feature to have, anyways. But still, it's still unique in that sense. You know, Iris scanner is a new thing. They jumped in with a new thing. Iris scanner is not, again, none of these things are deal breakers, or none of these things are going to revolutionize anything. But the sheer amount of features that are packed in here, even the edge screen, that's like super unique amongst phones. All those things add up to why this phone could be justified as being probably the most expensive feature phone out there, even more so than the iPhone. And the iPhone is really, I don't even consider the iPhone a feature phone. It's like the iPhone is just really, you could say it's a base standard, but it's certainly not really pushing any boundaries anymore. It's not really headlining what smartphones are these days. It's just really the base standard by which most phones are measured, and that's why I think Google is really measuring up to that standard rather than what Samsung has been trying to do, which turned out for the better in the sense that I would say there is a price to pay with all these features Obviously, that part of that comes with the danger of the battery exploding and issues with that. I have a feeling that it's also a processor issue. I'm not a big fan of the Snapdragon processor, even though it's a Zippy processor. I've had issues with it, overheating and whatnot from the Note. I don't remember if I had issues with the Note 3, but I definitely had issues with the Note 4, like major issues with Note 4, which was killing me at the end of the life of my Note 4. So I think the lesson here in the parable is that all these features kind of add up, or just packed into this Note 7 phone, and it just creates this bleeding edge situation where a number of things could go wrong, and obviously with the battery situation it did go wrong, which is highly unfortunate. So that aside, I don't want to get too deep into that, but that is again, you can't have your cake and eat it too, as they say. So Samsung kind of going into all these analogies, but Samsung, you could say Samsung was the Icarus who flew too close to the sun and then literally burned themselves. If nobody has used that analogy before, I think that's what happened. And really playing with the Google Pixel, it really feels kind of really pared down. I really think, so from my initial use, I've only used it for maybe a good 24 hours now. But I would say, maybe less than 24 hours, but I would say the Google Pixel represents, oops, I triggered something. The Google Pixel kind of represents the compromise between something like the Note 7 and the iPhone, going to an iPhone, to where it's not, the design is obviously pared down, and the OS is not the full extent of what the Android platform can offer. Things like Samsung built so much on top of what base Android is, and that includes hardware and software. So the Google Pixel and the Android Nougat 7.1 experience, other than the Google Assistant, which again I'll talk about my issues with, represents the base of that, and something that I think is better than the iPhone experience. And from a hardware standpoint, it's comparable to the iPhone experience too, as far as quality. But it doesn't have the super advanced risk-taker features of like the Note 7, which ended up being its fault. Most of what is a fault in the Note 7. So again, I'm continuing to ramble, but let's move on. So initial impressions of just looking at the Note 7. Obviously, I've kind of bought into the whole Spigen soft cases here. I don't like the hard snap-on cases anymore, because I just feel like it's scratching the phone, and it's just kind of plasticky and kind of cheap feeling. I mean, these I don't know what you call them, these gel cases, transparent cases, don't necessarily feel any more premium, but I think it does feel like when those hard shell clear cases crack, they just look ugly. So, and then I use a magnetic mount for my car, mounting my phone in my car, which I use my phone for all my navigation needs, so it's indispensable. I have to have my phone with me in my car, or else I can't get around. That's not true, but I do use it all the time for navigation, so I have to have my phone mounted. So I use the magnetic mount, which is so much more convenient than slipping it into a big heavy mount. I use an air vent magnetic mount, so less is more in terms of those kind of mounts. So it's just magnetic, it snaps on. So I unfortunately, there's no wireless charging on the Pixel, so I don't have to worry necessarily about the metal piece blocking a wireless charger. So I used to have I bought all this fast chargers for my Note 7, and now they're useless. So I'll have to deal with that. So that's good. But the other thing is NFC. again, to get into more of the specifics of my experience and things that might help you in your choices. So this metal piece, I think it's a little bit magnetic, which makes it stick better to the mount in the car. Even if you put it down here, it doesn't block. Apparently, it doesn't block the NFC. So I assume it wouldn't block things like Android Pay. Most of the NFC activity seems to be right up here in the glass, and that kind of makes sense because the glass, I think, because it's a metal body, I think, I don't know exactly what the material is, but it's metal. I think that ends up blocking NFC. So this glass area would make more sense. Right above the fingerprint scanner is where your NFC is going to operate, and I've tested it with some NFC tags, so it definitely works with. If you have a magnetic mount, you could place it right there, and there's no issue with NFC. I can demo that real quick. I have the NFC tag that I was using to test it. I think, yes. So I was using this NFC tag, and I programmed it just to make a chime when the tag is read. So if I were to on and so that was the function. It just makes it chime. So I just tap it right where this is, and it triggers the NFC. And then obviously, if you want to see it operate, then the case with this metal back piece here. Obviously, if I put the tag right there, it's not going to do anything. But if I put it right there,